बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम रब्बिश रह ली सदरी वयस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुक़्तम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Today is February 1st, 2019. Very, very, very cold day in Columbus, Ohio, and all over the Midwest. Crazy weather, harsh weather. Several people, homeless people, have died. Several animals have been frozen. Lot is going on in the community. While I'm sitting in Columbus and kind of very depressed and sad because one of our community leader, our activist, our very bright young woman, Amber Evans, has been missing for almost a week now. So in that whole chaos, for this whole week, many of us, the community activists, have been gathering every day, talking to each other. While we are searching for her, while we are praying for her, we are also reflecting a lot on what is the state of our community and how are we gonna change it, and what are the challenges that our organizations face, what are the challenges that our leaders face, and how the whole community's vision needs to be aligned with the vision of the activist of the community, the organizers of the community. And unless that happens, it doesn't seem like the change can really happen in the community. The society can really evolve. Right now, what we are seeing from the Trump's White House, the policies that are coming down from the governor place, the policies that are coming from the state, the Senate, U.S. Senate, and then state and House legislatures, wherever we have, especially Republican Party in power. It's very, very scary. More and more people are losing their social security benefits or their health benefits. More people are coming toward the soup kitchens and food pantries. More people are in need of housing. A lot more people are suffering right now than maybe suffering 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So with all of that, and then there are also other issues of discrimination, racism, and police brutality, and all of so many different things. And then the divides within our own community, and when you in the name of racism, in the name of socioeconomic divides within our communities, in the name of interfaith issues that we might have, differences, I should say, that we might have. With all of that, we really need to look at into where do we stand. We need to look into what needs to happen in our communities. How are we going to set our priorities? So when I look into all of that, I'm going to share my opinion. Of course, I'm not a scholar. I have read books, I understand Quran. I am a 50-year-old a woman with a lot of my own reading, research, classes, different things. So, and the experience in working in the community as a community organizer, as a social service provider, organizations, leader, and all kind of things. So I'm gonna share some of my thoughts, and when I do that, I know that it's gonna be a little bit longer and talk. I would want you to save this video. I want, if you don't have time right now, listen to it while you're doing something that you just have to listen. You don't have to look at my face. But this is important talk, and I want you to listen, and I want you to be able to comment, write down what you think, and where do are you aligned with what I'm saying or not. So I want to start with something. When we look into a community where so much suffering is happening, we have to look into what is your role and where you are. So in Islamic understanding, we are responsible on local people first. Our neighbors are our first response. Beyond our family members, beyond our own children and people that we are responsible are our neighbors. And then it goes to our city, and goes to our state, and then goes on. So in that context, I'm not responsible what happens in Karachi or in Pakistan, in Lahore, wherever. If I was born there or I was raised there, I am currently directly responsible on what happens in Hilliard, then what happens in Greater Columbus area, what happens in Dayton. These three first, because in one place, Hilliard, I live. In Greater Columbus area, I work. I'm a Hilltop commissioner now. My organization, my project USA, is working on the west side of Columbus, and then Dayton, because there also we have our chapter, and the mayor of Dayton asked me, and we started the project, and we are working on different things. So these are the three places which are, I have some kind of role that God has given me, and then beyond that, so that goes, what is happening in Ohio. So whoever is listening, you need to look into your own state. You're in Chicago, you're in Atlanta, you are in Texas, wherever you are, whatever state you live, whatever city you live, you are responsible on there. So when we are, what I'm gonna give you the points, think about it in your own context. So for us, when you look into it, our main the guidelines that we get from the scriptures, the guidelines that we get, Muslims get from Holy Quran, is that your first and foremost duty is to save people from hunger, to save people's life, to make sure that people have their basic needs provided. And this aligns so much so with who we are as Americans. So for my if I'm saying that I'm on a mission, and my mission is called jihad, the struggle that I'm in isn't called jihad, and my jihad is to make sure that the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and justice for all is served for everybody in America, in everybody beyond that. So with that mission in my mind, how are we I'm gonna set my priority? If we are talking about funding, if we are talking about human resources, whatever we are going to do, we need to look into it as a community vision. It cannot be done by one person or the other, two people. The community has to have a vision. So, for example, if we are talking about Columbus, the Columbus community has to have a vision. If we talk about, a group of Muslims, like Muslim community has to have a mission, or Ohio community has needs to have a vision. So, what our vision would be is that we need to look into our resources, our fundings, and then allocate them accordingly. And when we are allocating them, how are we going to select where we need to invest more and where we need to invest less? Then that's the question that would set the work, that would make it easy for the organizations and activists like Amber, like myself, like many others, to deliver what needs to be delivered. So when we look into the issues, I made a list, and the top thing that comes in our mind, being in Ohio, opioid death. We are in the top states, who that's facing opioid death. I believe we are second. Sex trafficking, we are fourth in sex trafficking. And what is sex trafficking? Is slavery of people. So we are here, our challenge is how are we going to save people from slavery? Then infant mortality is very, very high in Columbus, in Ohio. And hunger is as a major, major issue. We have so many people in our communities that do not have proper food, that do not have nutritious food. We have children being raised without having proper food to eat. We have children who would not have food if there is a snow day like today. There are, the load on food pantries, the load on soup kitchens is so much so that it cannot be, met if we are not funded properly. The unemployment is an issue, and everybody thinks that people are not working just because they are lazy, they don't want to work, or they are getting free money, which is not true. Most people are not employed right now because maybe they have language issues, cultural barrier. They're refugees who came and they needed help. There are people who are not documented the way it should be documented. There are serious issue of education inequality. People do not have, our children do not have the same treatment that they should receive, even though we just celebrated Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday, and the work that he and many of his colleagues and other people have done, is still to this day we do not have that equality that many of us living in suburb believe that our children do. In Columbus, we have cases in which you can just it will blow your mind if you know what kind of suffering our students go through, especially minorities students. Transportation is a huge issue in unemployment. People do not have right to get to the work. We need system. We need more investment. We need to have to make sure that we provide more job opportunities near people where people live, so they can go and they can work. Addiction, drugs, alcohol, whatever different things, especially drug addiction, I want to talk about. It is not that people just started taking drugs for fun, as many people, especially in suburbs and wealthy people, they think. That's not true. Drugs is happening because of so many different reasons, because of depression, because of mental health issues, because somebody tricked someone, especially the children have been tricked. They are given free drugs. They didn't know it was drug, and now that they are addicted, they are being slave of these criminals. There are girls who have been addicted by by trick, by these pimps who are now selling them every single day, so many times a day. I have girls, I've known girls who are actually really were good kids, and now they have been they are trapped in trap houses. They have been raped, they have been trafficked in by these pimps who are controlling them because of drugs. On Sullivan Avenue, we see every day, we see so many women passing by, selling themselves, looking, because they are forced to sell themselves. So this addiction is a serious epidemic, and we need to invest money. The public government has to spend money. The taxpayer dollar need to be spent more on these, and the private charity, the private organizations also need to fund into these and these epidemics to be addressed. And which is like, the last thing I have is, of course, mental health issues. And mental health issues could be so many. I mean, we are talking about, especially this whole week, me and many other activist leaders in Columbus, we have been talking about, how much stress and depression we personally take, even though when we are leaders. So if we go through so much and we are more resourceful, maybe we are more educated, maybe we are more strong, but there is a human limit of everything. So when there is human limit of everything, what is out there in the community, in the resources wise and funding wise, that could help and save our people who are going through the mental health issues, or and it could be just simply very simple thing, which is depression. People think depression is nothing, but which is actually a big deal. So in that whole the a very small list that I listed, I want to share my vision when I look into it. And I feel like, if we need to look into, if we want to address this injustice, if we want to save our people, if we want to make sure that people have food and shelter and all other thing, we need to really address the root cause. It's not about just passing food on Saturday mornings like we do in our food pantry, which is we have to do short term thing. That, of course, we have to provide meals to people so we can save them. So short term things need to be funded. We need to take care of them. But at the same time, the long term solutions and long term addresses of these problems are also very much needed. So in that context, if you are investing your money into different issues, if you are investing your time, your resources, human resources into something, then we have to prioritize how we're gonna do it. And that's what I want to discuss. So here is something that we have. This is basically chapter 107 of Quran, Surah Al-Ma'un. And the translation of that, it goes, it's only 7 verses in this chapter. And it goes, have you seen him who denies the final judgment? Then such is the man who repulses the orphans and encourages not the feeding of the indigent. So woe to those praying ones who are careless of their prayers, those who want but be seen of men, but refuse to supply even neighborly needs. So this is like 7, and I can 7 verses, and I can go on and on in the in describing it. But just to give a very short summary of this, the main message, and this is just one chapter. There are so many, dozens and dozens of verses in Quran that actually talk about the importance of feeding people, to saving people life, and of any animal, like animals, to being kind and make sure that nobody dies of hunger, make sure that everybody has shelter and all those things. So if you have $100, if you have, let's not talk about $100 even, if you have whatever number of dollars you have to make sure that your money is gone into the community organizations and community services and in the project and initiatives where number one need is being met, that are focusing on making sure that homeless people get home, that they have shelter. And the shelters, eventually our goal should be in next 5 years there will be less people in the homeless shelter, because we would create more employment, because we would invest into mental health crisis, because we will have more rehab services, more services for people who are addicted right now, and that's why they cannot stay in their job. So if we invest into different things, that different organization and initiatives that are actually working on the root causes of homelessness or root causes of unemployment, we can actually solve the issue in the long run. So what we need to look into is that when we are investing our charity dollar, when we are investing our resources, where are we investing and how is it going to uplift our people? And here, when with the basic the seven verses that I read, it is about, you have to, the emphasis of that, you have to make sure that you are taking care of needy, you have to make sure that you are taking care of it, and you have to make sure that you are also encouraging others to do it. And as I said, the priority of, yes, you can take care of orphan in Pakistan, you can take care of orphans in Somalia and other places, which we all should do at one point or the other. But again and again and again, your first job is that you have to make sure that if a child is sitting in front of you, would you feed that child first, or you would send, money or food and make sure that, a child 1,000 miles away from you or overseas is being fed, but the child in front of you has not been given food, or the child in front of you doesn't have the winter course, or the child in front of you didn't go to education, but you are making sure that, back in Pakistan, India, wherever you are from, that the children are going to school. And I understand the need on both places, but then, our being, wherever you are, being an American, being a person living in Columbus, being a person living in Chicago, wherever you live, this is our job. We have to make sure that, first and foremost, the people in our own city, black, white, Hispanic, Muslims, non-Muslims, Christians, whatever they are, their rights are being protected, because we are going to be asked about their rights first. So what I just read, it shouldn't be the case that, if I'm a Muslim, or if I'm a Pakistani, or if I'm a Somali, I'm going to invest into only the people who are Somali. Because when we work with Amber, and Amber is, someone who was working for Juvenile Justice Coalition, she is working for Juvenile Justice Coalition. When we work with her, or we work with other organizers, no, none of these organizers, none of these activists, none of these organizations say that we are not going to serve a white juvenile, or we are not going to serve a Muslim juvenile. It's for everybody, and that's how us Muslims also need to invest. That's how all Christians need to invest. So this is our very, very first thing, that, this has to be our priority. Now the other angle of this, okay, so why are these people need to be funded by us, our charity dollar? Because right now the elected officials, the people in Senate, the people in in the Congress, the people in our governor houses, the people in our state houses are not doing the right job. They are, and especially, being very openly, this is the Republican Party people mostly who are actually, making sure that they are giving more and more breaks to the richer people, the wealthy people, and they are cutting, talking about Social Security, they are cutting the health care, they are cutting all these, the food stamps being cut. All of these things are serious problems. So if we want to address this issue, if we want to make sure that we are addressing it, then what we need to do, on one side, side, we will do the short-term care by making sure that the food pantries are funded, soup kitchens are funded, all these initiatives are funding. But on the other side, we also have to make sure that these political, these politicians are out of the office and we place the new ones. And for that matter, and for the sake of God, for the sake of the community, we have to make sure that we are organizing our community and we are organizing our people, our voters, to elect the right people. And for that reason, that itself, the political activities that many people do not think that this is a religious activity, it becomes a religious obligation. Because, according to Islamic understanding, if you have a ruler that is biased, if you have a ruler that is unjust, you are supposed to, change, you are supposed to fire them and you have to bring somebody else. And somebody else has to be just and right person, and you have to hold them accountable, and you have to make sure that they are not corrupt. So with that, if you're talking about making sure that the homeless people do not die in the next winter, our job right now is that, one, we fund all the organization, the homeless shelters, the soup kitchens, pantries, and all those lists that I'm talking about over and over. We make sure that they are funded right now. So we are making sure that the hungry and homeless in our community are taken care of. And at the same time, for the sake of policy, we will also organize on the political arena. We will make sure that we are giving our time, our money, and in that context, what comes, and believe me, I am not against any of the all organizations are important, all buildings are important, everybody does the important job. But when I have my children who are dying because, or they are suffering because they don't have proper food or they don't have proper thing, then I have to focus, and I have limited money, I have limited time, limited resources, and I have to focus on what is the most important. So in that context, I would say, check on all your organizations, check all your faith organizations, your churches, your synagogues, your temples, your mosques. Make sure that until we have our children safe, until our children are fed, until our moms have, the support they need, we are not funding, those extravaganzas buildings. We are not funding and making the socio-economic divide bigger and bigger. We are not supporting those wealthy club kind of organizations that are actually not going in the inner city. Maybe their buildings are becoming fancier, their own functions are becoming better, and these are $1 million projects. And just few miles from them, you have, this is happening under their, in the same community, there are people who are dying. There are people who do not have shoes or clothes or proper or equal treatment. So we also need to look into those organizations, our own faith organization. We have to ask questions, and we have to ask, their spending. We have to talk about that. And in the same context, we also need to be very, very careful and, watchful about who are our leaders, our faith leaders or our community leaders, our elected officials. And it's not very, very difficult. It's not rocket science. You can always check, you can always find out that who is your actual leader. And a right leader, a righteous leader would be one who would actually be present in the community. I mean, there are, and in this Facebook era, in this social, this social media era, it's so easy for people to emerge like as if they are champions of all kind of causes. You will have people who are working for, poor people campaign and food causes and hunger causes and all kind of things. But if you really look into their track record, there is nothing in their track record. They are only present on the time when there are photo ops. Important occasions, when there is media is there, they'll be there. When there important leaders are there, they'll be there. But under their track record of last 5 years, last 10 years, last 20 years, you will not see a single trackable or enough, if I won't say single, enough, routine track that they have invested into actual community service in any way. If they have started a food pantry, if they have started a soup kitchen, if they have, started a program where they are mentoring leaders, if there is a routine that they are actually, getting something done which is addressing this need of, the feeding the poor and taking care of orphans and taking care of refugees and everything. So if you have a leader, if you are following someone who is a religious leader or community leader or your community, your ethnic, group leader, whoever they are, if these people are not on the street, if these people are not actually on ground, And if these people are only posting on your Facebook, on your social media, whenever it's, they look like they are heroes, then you need to make sure that you don't follow their lead. There are people out there, it doesn't matter if they are Muslims or not Muslim, it doesn't matter if they are Jewish or Christian or whoever they are. Your job is to go out and check out and look for those people who are actually out there in the street. I will just give you an example of someone who I adore and I respect so highly. One of our community leader on the hilltop area is Lisa Boggs, and Lisa is a big on leader in cleaning, on the cleaning issue of the hilltop side, which is a huge issue, the trash removal and everything. And she is one who is out every single day, who is actually taking care of issues. She's always speaking, she's always posting, she's already always doing something in her community to make sure that it is done. So when I look up to her, I'm going to follow her lead when it comes to the issues related to that, because she's a genuine leader. She has shown me by doing that work. She is not the one who is only posting on Facebook or social media. The same thing for issues, when people talk and they try to look like, they are champion of something, and they do not have anything to present that is actually on a consistent basis, then you need to question their lead. You need to understand that there is something missing. The other thing I want you to understand, and I want to close on it, it's almost 25 minutes now, is that um, also you have to understand, when you are investing and how are we going to address these issues, there is a lot of politics and a lot of corruption within nonprofit world also. There is a lot of corruption in an industry, nonprofit industry. There are issues in all elected offices, and you hear it all the time that so and so has been now, like mayor in Chicago was indicted later afterward. Like, there were, I'm sorry, not the he was not indicted, but there are in I'm just losing track, but Ohio's, assistant treasurer was a couple years ago. He was indicted and was then arrested because of corruption, giving different contracts to different people. Always siding or being biased and giving. There's conflict of interest. There are different kind of commissions are being given, under the table. So those things happen, and these things happen in the nonprofit funding also. And sometimes they are caught, sometimes they are not caught. Within the organizations in the community, if you're not involved, you don't know what's going on. You don't understand, how different organizations try to collaborate, didn't, who did what, who wrote the what. But when you see things on Facebook, when you see things on social media, when one person is trying to put someone down, when some person is trying to, do the propaganda against an organization or against a community leader, what we need to understand is we need to really look into the facts. If you see the facts, if you understand the facts, if you are, and how are you going to check that? You have to look into the track record. You have to look into who is doing what. You have to see, who is actually out in the community, what is the impact of a certain organization, what is the impact of somebody's work in the community. When you look into those things, then is the one that you will understand, and you should be able to fund those organizations. And if you have question, I would highly recommend that instead of sitting back, instead of being confusing, instead of being a victim of all these rumors or propaganda that you hear out in the community against anybody or a certain organization that actually, is doing a lot of work, better approach, go ask them, talk to them. But make sure that in the nonprofit, 501c3 dollar that you are spending, you spend on organizations right now who are actually providing the short-term and long-term solutions to these issues that are very important to be addressed: hunger, unemployment, poverty, education, addiction, drugs, trafficking. All of these are most important, because if we are not taking care of these things, our community will fall apart, our society will fall apart, our children, our grandchildren will inherit something which is going to be very dangerous for them. And when I was talking about this political activity, in that context, I also want to say, so you have this whole idea that
oh, you support your civil rights organization, you support your other organization that also fight against discrimination and so many other things, which is we have to do it. And among that, ACLU is an example. Muslim Community Care is an example. There are other organizations also who do this similar kind of work, and they are all important organizations. We should fund them. There is no doubt. But when at this point where we are in 2019 and 2020 election is going to be very, very important, I wholeheartedly, and people would be upset at me, but I would say at this is the time when we need to, maybe, if we have fewer money, we need to budget our money right now as a community. Our vision has to be that we will invest into political action committees right now, because if we don't do it, our 501c3 civil rights organization cannot endorse a candidate. They cannot go out and organize people to vote for one organization or the other organization. Because they cannot do it, the problem would be that at the end of the day, if we do not have our own political action committees strong, if we do not have people hired for this job, again in 2020 election, we will not have somebody who will be guiding us properly, who will be organizing, and we make sure that we vote for, enough votes are, our voters turn out for the people who are actually the real genuine community leaders. And for that matter, it becomes, and unless that happens, the policies will not be changed. If policies that the elected officials will not do their job, the non-profit 501c3 organizations like social services provider will be under more burden. There'll be more work to do. So that's why this is, both things are interlinked with each other. Right now, we need to make sure that we take care of political organizing of our community. We invest into right people. We invest into organizations that will be able to do better job in elections, that are going to make sure that we elect right people. So our charity dollar needs to be distributed, because either way we will be making sure that the people go in the legislature, they become legislator, and then they are going to be the one who will fund more of the healthcare. They will make sure that social security are is increased, not decreased. They will make sure that people are covered. They will make sure that the organizations like ours have enough funding, and they are being, and overall the right policies are implemented in the communities in the country. So I'm going to stop here, saying that please keep praying for Amber. We hope that she returns sound and safe. I also want to say that My Project USA is, of course, is an organization that is taking care of all these different kind of needs of the community. Our fundraiser is on February 23rd, Saturday, in Columbus Boathouse. All information is on our website, myprojectusa.org. Please make sure to check it out. Make sure that this is like, I'm speaking at as a person, Zarqa Abid, talking about what is my vision. But of course, this organization is my organization. I'm inviting all of you to join the movement, to check in what you can do. And if you have any question, ask. If you have any confusion, ask. And if you can not come to our dinner, send your donations, support our organization or support other organizations in your community that are working on these causes on ground, day-to-day basis. Follow the lead of people who are actually doing the job, not the people who are just your champions on Facebook and who are only looking for photo ops most of the time. And that's where I'm gonna close. I hope to talk to you guys later. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.